If href is defined, that means it is not implemented. Why you haven't implemented? Because it is not my job. That is done by another module people, another developer. Because we are working in a enterprise based environment where we don't do all the work. Our role is only specific, and in that role we will just design what we need. Implementation is done by some other people. So we will write the design and we will send it to another team. That team is responsible for implementing. Now, but when you write actually JavaScript and TypeScript and all these client-side scripts will support unit testing. That means each and every part of the code that you written is tested. Then when you are doing unit testing and you return a link like this, then it is always invalid. It is always invalid. It will report as a bug. It will report as a problem. Then how to tell my testing team, means my testing tool actually, because testing team will use a testing tool that will verify all this. How to tell the testing tool that this is not a problem, because so it will be implemented later. Currently it is not doing anything. Then if you write like this, anchor href is equal to, we have an habit of writing like this, and home we write like this. This is also invalid. Then now what invalid? So what is invalid now? So invalid is nothing but no redirection happening. No redirection, redirection implemented. That means no redirection implemented. No redirection implemented means the link is written. You written href, but href, if I write like this, empty, that means where to redirect is not mentioned. That means this is also invalid. Sometimes people have a habit of writing like this, hash, now home, and this is also invalid. This is also invalid. That means here, so path hash means it is within the page. Within the page means it requires an ID. An ID. That means it requires an hash, some HTML. Like this ID is required. That ID is required. So that means some reference ID is required, and ID is not defined. ID is not defined. So this is also invalid. That means you write in the first way, it is invalid. Second way, that is also invalid. Third, this is also invalid. Then how to tell the testing tool that this is not a problem? Later, it will be implemented. How do we tell that? Then we can write like this. Anchor href is equal to JavaScript colon. We write void. We define this way. And this is valid. It indicates that the href need to be dynamically implemented. JavaScript means it need to be implemented later by JavaScript. Dynamically means JavaScript only. It will be implemented later by JavaScript. And currently it is not returning any value. That means link is there without any return type. Void indicates that it will not return any functionality currently. That means there is no functionality to return. So that means testing tool will verify that you have implemented href and you have defined that it is currently zero return type. It is zero return type. That means it is not returning anything. Later, You can write a functionality so that it can return that functionality. You can write a functionality so that it can return that functionality. That is what actually the purpose of void operator. The purpose of void operator. Later, you will see how to use this void operator. Void operator. So while working with functions, because when you are dealing with functions, you will understand clearly how to deal with this void operator, right? So technically, to represent the function return type, the function is not returning any value. To define the function return type, the function is not returning any value. So we use this void operator. Let's take a look about that. For example, technically how we write this. So void, and we define like this 0. That means a link is defined, but it is not returning anything. No value it is returning. It returns 0. So that means it is 0, not implemented. This will not be a problem for our testing tool because it understands that. So it is currently designed to return nothing. That is what void is. So then here I can write like this. href is equal to javascript colon void, and we just put 0. So now when I run this, now we have a link, and when I click on that, it is not redirecting, but it is perfectly designed. It is working. Working means actually it is returning 0. Then our testing framework will not return it as a bug. It will return that, okay, this is a link, but it is currently not returning anything. Later it can be implemented. How we can implement? We can add a new functionality into this without disturbing void. Simply we can implement. How we can implement? We can simply write here document.body.style.background color is equal to the color I defined as some yellow. Like this I have written. That means now later it can be implemented with any specific functionality. That means when user clicks on that link, then what it is doing, that link is doing some functionality. That means we given some functionality, we return some functionality. Of course, you can write redirection also. Redirection, how to write, how to write redirection. We have to use location object. Location.href is equal to that specific path. Currently, I am defining some color, and I refresh here, and I click on that. That means it has to get that color and display. That means it is returning some functionality now. Or later, I can write like this. This is one general example. Generally, how we implement that void. So implement that void. We can do redirection here. Redirection, how do we define? Usually redirection is defined like this. We usually write here as location.href is equal to, it should redirect to some dot will come out of the current folder. In that folder, suppose we are having some pages like home.html. Then we are defining like home.html like this. That means we can implement the functionality later for that. So I click on that, it will return to the home page, and it will return that home page and display the page. That means we can later implement the functionality for that link, that you can configure by using these techniques. So earlier it is designed to return nothing, but later dynamically you can implement a functionality for this. You can implement a functionality for that. And this is an example for that. So href can use location dot